Yeah.
Hey, we're back. Yee-hee. Woo-hoo.
Okay.
Yee. Where's everybody? They can't be shopping. You gotta have Blackfoot first, then you get to go do your shopping.
No Black Friday, Blackfoot Monday.
Yeah, this is Cyber Blackfoot Monday. So we're gonna finish off the animals that we've done. All the animals, which is gonna lead us into our calendar moons. Now, like I said, the animals play a pretty big part of our culture. They're in our names. They tell us the movement of the seasons, and then the animals are part of those seasons that we're going to be doing. The calendar moons, of course, we have a 12-month lunar calendar from January to December, right? Well, we have what we would call a 12-moon calendar, and each moon represents something significant of that moon. And if you go back into the days of the buffalo, right, in the days of the teepees and that, those moons are very important because they tell us, movement. Hey, we need to move away from the prairies. We need to go to our wintering grounds and so forth, right? It tells us of the rivers, um, whether to cross the rivers, if they're dangerous, and some of the animals are going to be coming back from migration, hibernation, all those things. Very important. But we'll finish them off. We'll do waterfowl, and we'll end off with some of the animals that we haven't done. Did we do any animals from the Rockies, like the gyayu, the bear? We didn't.
No.
Okay, we'll finish it off. Okay, so let's move on. We're going to go right into our animals. We're going to finish them off. Then we can always refer back to them later on and that. But like I said, animals are very much part of indigenous people in that, right? When you talk about imita, well, there's a culture of imita that we had prior to settlement, right? Imitas were the apisi, and if you're very, very, very courageous, you get a makui as your imita, right? And later on, of course, when those imita, the culture of the imita, then came the punakomita, right? Punakomita, of course, is the horse. So the culture of that imita, right, replaced by now, the horse culture. When you think of the leadership back then and that, bull back fat, stomach susak was our chief. That was the arrival of the Punakomita, right? Stomach susak. And I figured the Punakomita culture we were able to expand west, even more so into the Saskatchewan, almost a whole part of Montana, just expanded all the way north to the South Saskatchewan River. Huge landmass. So that was the Punagomita culture. But also, too, we have to make note of, the calendar moons. We had to come back to our wintering grounds. Right now, we would be in our area of wintering. Red crow, meat geister, after bullback fat, seen from afar, binakuyum, okay? After binakuyum, then that's when we had contact with the Europeans, red crow, okay? So that was still that. There was a huge transition during that time of red crow and that, right? And then, of course, after red crow, crow-eared wolf, Sue. Sue's back. She's over there. And then we have some people in our audience. They're gonna clap every so often. No, just kidding. Studio audience. So like they the calendar started changing. And then there was a 365-day calendar at that time we had to adapt to, right? Then we had a 7-day week that we had to adapt to, a Monday to Sunday, right? So those things were all introduced into the indigenous communities. But, those words still remain. And even so today, we often wonder what's happening right now as the climate changes and that, because the animals do tell us, right? If if you live anywhere near lakes right now, you'll notice sa'eh are still here. The Opspini are still here, right? They haven't migrated, they're still here. So what does that tell us, right? You know, and then of course, where I live, there's umhkukatas. You know what that is, umhkukata?
Gopher.
Yeah, see, and they came out 2 weeks ago, right in front of my house. You know, so you know those animals they're telling us something. The pattern of the moon, you know, the pattern of the weather is changing, and that because those animals, if you study them, they tell us, right? You know, the abundance of birds that are still here indicates that hey, you know what kind of winter are we going to have? Okay, let's move on to our animals. Our first animal is the animal of. This is the official animal of Canada, right?
Siskstaki.
Yeah, Ksiskstaki. Ksiskstaki. You have to kind of really extend that. Ksiskstaki. You say
Ksiskstaki.
Ksiskstaki. Ksiskstaki. Yeah.
This
Staki. Ksis. Like you say you kiss, but then you add an S to the not a ksis.
Ksiskstaki.
Yeah.
Ksiskstaki.
No. This particular animal, the Ksiskstaki, is our meteorologist. It tells us of our upcoming winters, okay? If you observe the lodge of a Ksiskstaki in a pond, right? Where it selects its winter lodge indicates the harshness of the winter, okay? Now, my grandfather told me the story, and you can see this on, if you go back to about the 1970s Lethbridge Herald, there was a old article that he spoke of this animal. He said that if a Ksiskstaki builds his lodge near the banks or at the banks of the pond, it's going to be a mild winter. Mild. If the Ksiskstaki builds its lodge in the middle of its pond, harsh winter. It's going to be a hard, cold winter. You know, 100% of the time in that, he's right. That's why he's standing there very proud. Look at him. Say, you know what kind of winter are we going to have in that? Well, according to the El Nino, if you've been listening to the news, it's going to be a mild winter. Yeah. Blow out your sunscreen, your sunglasses, pull out your flip-flops, and away you go. That's what kind of winter we're going to have. Yep. When we started having contact with, you know, through schools, and we started learning about other indigenous groups, and that one in particular I was quite amazed of was they used to be called the Eskimo. You know, because of the political correctness of our societies, and that they're Inuit, right? That's the proper name and that. But they themselves, they probably have a name that they call themselves. Like, you know, you say Blackfoots, but we say no, we're Nitsitapena, right? Yeah. Did you know that the Inuit have up to 150 ways of saying snow?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, 150 ways of saying snow. So when you look at, you know, the environment that they live at, and that they're very aware of, you know, the environment and that, you know, the skies, you know, the snow, and it's just tundra, right? It's just flat, but yet they can navigate themselves through that area, right? And I bet you they studied the caribou, and I bet you they studied a lot of the animals, so they themselves can navigate just as the animals do, right? Well, I think that's how we are. That's how we sort of navigate ourselves through our immediate environment, which is the plains, right? To the west of us, of course, are the Rockies. But for the most part, right, we're in a Soki, the plains and that. And of course, what you want to do in the wintertime is negotiate to navigate this person. And he's going to tell you, you're going to have a harsh winter. But I doubt that, you know, because of the damming and, you know, the rediverting of rivers and such, and that this person right here can't navigate himself sometimes because of lost habitat, right? They're just about went extinct too because of the, you know, the the beaver pelt trade. But it recovered. Sisksteki. Yeah, and there are in our society, in particular the Picani, Siksika, Gana, and Abskapi Picani, we have bundles called Sisksteki Mopistan. Sisksteki bundles. That's what you call them in that. And they're open twice a year. Once in the springtime, right? When you start to see all the geese coming back, they'll open up these bundles. And then when they start to migrate, the animals and so forth, they'll close them, right? They're called beaver bundle. I've never actually attended one in that, but they're quite, it's a long day. There's lots of songs and lots of prayers and so forth in that. And within each of these bundles in that, there are animals. There's songs that sing of course, the beaver itself. I heard that there's a Misinski song. Remember a Misinski? The badger?
Yep.
The face ski. Okay, there's a badger song. I'm not too sure which one of the antlers animals that they sing, but I've been invited to a couple, but I've never attended because I'm watching baseball or hockey or something. No, just kidding.
How do you say it again? A beaver bundle?
Sisksteki. You say the word, the animal, Mopistan.
Mopistan.
Mopistan. What that means is that, it's a bundle, beaver bundle that's been wrapped. Sisksteki Mopistan, right? Mopistan is the bundle because it's wrapped, right? Mopistan.
Being wrapped. Okay.
Yeah, it's wrapped. And of course, when you think about wrap, you think Western. Oh, they must have used some kind of, no, it's the skin of an animal, right? It's the skin of an animal that they use. Mopistan. Our next one. Emanisi. Waterfowl animal. I thought that this animal was extinct of southern Alberta, but during the pandemic of that, I went to Fort McLeod. You all know where the fort is in Fort McLeod. In behind the Fort McLeod, there's of course the Old Man River runs through there, right?
Yeah.
And then of course I went to bring in my vehicle. We all still had masks and that. I had it for like a oil change, and where I was oil changing, it was just like a block over. So I go wait over there. And then, lo and behold, as I was walking along the river, I was kind of leaned against the fence. I was looking down and I seen kind of like some activity in the water. First, I thought maybe these are just the like ducks or geese swimming about and that. And this is early fall, like September, and there was 3 of these diving around. M1s. And I took a video of them. And I thought it was really neat in their natural habitat. The river runs through there, and then what they call a backwater, right? There's like a backwater in this way, and it rejoins the river. And and they were right there, just below me. That's M1s, 3 of them adults. Each of them were taking turns, and they would dive into the river, and it would come up just like that, all in succession. One would come all just like that. And they must have been there for about a good 10 minutes. And I just looking at them in awe, because I've never seen an animal of this in its natural habitat, like the river, right? M1s. What this means is that it's like it glides. It's a glider on land. It doesn't actually run. Have you ever seen an M1s in that on film? It kind of like it glides right on its belly and that, and into the water. Right? That's what that means. M1s. When you and I put on skates, M-mokika, gliding on ice. Yeah.
Monica.
No, M-mokika.
M-mokika.
Part of that word, M1s, M-mokika. Skating. Yeah, M-mokika. That's skating.
Oh.
Yeah, because we're gliding on ice. Well, this M1 glides on land, right?
Yeah.
That's like a surface that it has, and it just sort of just slides through the slithers, and it kind of, right into the water. Okay, our next one. We're gonna keep going here. Is this animal right here? Matsi kapisa.
Matsi kapisa.
Yeah, matsi kapisa, frog. Yeah, matsi kapisa. And of course, I think it's an old Blackfoot word. And of course, animals sometimes we describe the shape of the animal. Matsi kapisa probably talks about that back legs being so high, right? Matsi kapisa. His legs back here, as opposed to the front legs right here. Okay, Matsi kapisa. Oh, we went to Hawaii in 1999 for the World Indigenous Peoples Education Conference, and it was really neat. There was all kinds of birds we've never seen before. You got to see the ocean and got to swim in the ocean, but there was a humorous old guy that was always with us, and I just love having these old people around because they make stories, they make jokes. While we were at the beach, it was kind of getting a little bit dark, and there was the strangest sound that I've never heard. It's just probably a bird of some sort over there, but it had the most, I don't know, it sounded like a croak, but at the same time, it was probably a bird, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the wife of this old guy said, I don't know what kind of animal that is. It's really unfamiliar, that sound. And the old man says, oh, anuksi matsi kapisai me. And then steps it, which means the frogs that we're at are much taller than man. Like if there's frogs about the size of me. And the old lady says, oh, I wonder what they eat. Well, they probably eat you and I if we get too close to them. You know? And in Blackfoot, it says, it's a beauty, it's a big frog and it eats human. That's the beauty. And the old lady was kind of thinking, why don't, like why couldn't have they had talked about it at the conference to be aware of this large this large frog? He said, no, it's just a joke and that, but we're so unfamiliar with distant lands and that we just believe that these animals exist. We're led to believe that there's a Loch Ness monster, and also a Bigfoot, but who knows?
And UFOs?
Oh, yeah, and UFO. Yeah. Okay. Now this one here, I find it is a pet. Anytime you see a siskstaki in a pond, you'll always see this animal here. And this is called a misochpski. Misochpski, of course, is a muskrat.
Muskrat.
Yeah. Misochpski. The ski indicates something to do with the face. So if you look at the face really careful in that, it looks like it's pushed in, right? So it's kind of, it tells you of Misochpski is that his face is flat, right? It's kind of almost pushed in that. And we call it the muskrat here in North America because of the tail, right? It looks like a rat. But it's a Misochpski. And then it's almost constant. If you see a pond that has a beaver, this animal is always going to be there with it. I find it's either the Tiskstucky's friend or that's his little buddy, his pet. But it seems to be present all the time at a pond. Muskrat. Probably the muskrat tells the beaver incoming weather. No. He's the real weather person. Hey, Heather, Gabriel, glad you guys all back. Heather, Sukapi. We have a studio audience, by the way. Wait.
Okay.
Wait. Say hi. Introduce yourselves.
My name is Kara Cryhead.
Yeah. And the one behind? Daniel. Yeah, we have a studio audience. Yes. Say hi. This is Larissa, and we have Zach, Heather, Gabriel, and all the gang. What's that?
Oh, so we have a closer shot.
Oh, I don't know how to do the focus on that.
That I don't.
Yeah. I don't like touching this stuff. You see me? Yeah. Okay, so those are all the waterfowl animals that live around the lakes, around the ponds. Some are more abundant than others. Like I said, M1EC. Oh my goodness, I just love to see the M1EC, its natural habitat. It's just so neat to see that, right? I see stickies all the time, right here at the river valley of Lethbridge over the bridge and that. They're there. They're everywhere. They didn't get over saturated with their pelts and that. They survived, So, of course, that's them. We're going to stick with the amphibians or this is called Omxixina. This is kind of a spelling error. Omxixina, which means the rattlesnake. The means something big.
Big, yeah.
Right? It's almost like you're saying big snake.
Yeah.
A snake is a pixixina. Yeah, pixixina is a snake. This is a omxixina, which is literally what you're almost saying. It's a big snake, right? So a garter would be a pixixina, just a little snake, right? These are much bigger. Omxixina. Yeah, and these things too, of course, I hear they're not as abundant as they used to be because of the natural habitat. The only places that are still kind of like they're thriving are east of Lethbridge in what's that place called? Riding on Stone in that area. Foremost, there's lots and lots of you really have to be careful in that.
Is there some in Indian bottle?
But here, I'm not too sure if there are, I think the numbers of, when I was teaching at the Gulf, there was an amphibian man that studied and actually counted snakes in around southern Alberta. I think he had an area, I think all the way down to the border, up through probably Tabor. You go north into the, I'm not too sure how far north in that, but there was a team of him, and all they did was count snakes. And he said that the Omxixina were the numbers at that time, which was about 5 years ago, way down, way down. And I was asking about one particular snake that actually hunts this animal, and it's called a bull snake. And then because of I haven't heard or seen or anybody talk about the bull snakes and that, the last I heard of a bull snake, a Pixixina, was probably back in the 70s or 80s and that. And it's it doesn't have, it's not a venomous snake, the bull snake, as this is. It actually eats and hunts the bull snake. So nature has a way of, of balancing itself in that, right? And maybe if these things become too many, the bull snake will come in and start to, even out the population and so forth and that, right? Yeah, and there he is, pretty happy. Now, the people, of course, the Blackfoot, we have a society called the Motuki. It's a women's society, Motuki, and they cannot say this word. It's something they cannot say, right? It's like you can't say Voldemort. You can't say his name. Okay. Well, same goes with this animal. Hello. A bunch of kids came in. Are you guys sure in the right place? Oh. Hello. What's happening? I'm in. Hey, what's happening? Is there a children's festival going on? I don't know. Ray. Oh, excuse me. We just got invaded by a bunch of cats.
So how come they can't?
The Friendship Center has this, where we're teaching out of is called the boardroom. There's a big gymnasium just a little bit further down. They have a lot of activities happening over there. They got boxing there. They have boxing. They have a boxing club. They got a basketball team. They have moccasin making. They got all kinds of ribbon dress making. Yeah, so all kinds of stuff. And of course, Blackfoot. I love it that they have Blackfoot here and that. Oh, my kids in.
So how come they can't say it?
You know what? He would have to see and talk to a direct member
Oh,
of that society and that, right? I know a lot of people in there. And if you wish to know these things and that, all they got to do is ask. That's it. You know,
okay.
there's no secret to it and that, but they'll tell you the reason for that. And I've yet to ask anybody, why can't you say that, right?
Yeah, okay.
So, you know, it's somebody within that's the current member of the Motuki, they'll be able to tell you directly why.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's Heather, you can ask. It's not like it's not forbidden to not ask, right? I always ask, well, why can't you say Baltimore? You know, I can say it, you know, nothing happens. He can't say his name, right? Baltimore. But anyways, yeah. So it's something within themselves and very sick. You know, when you think about these people, they've been around for years, that society. I was just looking at some of the Glenbow in the Alberta Museum with some of the pictures that they have. They have pictures in there that they got from another museum in the States. They came up into the southern Alberta and they took a whole bunch of pictures of our Horn Society members back in the early 1900s, right? Even further back into the late 1800s, there's pictures of the Iitskina, the Motuki. And they were just like posing with their, yeah, which was something that was kind of, you know, like it's taboo to take any pictures today and that, right? Of those people and that. But, you know, they probably figured, hey, you know what? Let them take their pictures and who, you know, they probably never thought that 100 years after those pictures and here we are looking at the same photos that we see during the Sundance, the same, you know, the same artifacts they wear. Yeah, so animals. We're going to finish off our animals. Aha.
Yayu.
A Gyayu. That's the Gyayu.
Boxikoi.
Boxically. A boxically is another word we use for an animal. Boxically means when it's kind of salivating at the mouth, right? So it's the
Drooling
same
mouth.
action as that when you guys go to Denny's and you see the menu, you start salivating, right? Well, boxically is the same thing. It's really, you know, it's just like saliva. It's just, boxically. But overall, they're gyayu. Okay? Two types of gyayu. Sick gyayu, black bear. Apoyoch gyayu is the brown bear. Okay? And a grizzly bear is probably the boxically. Yeah. Now, boxically is the only word that certain members of a bundle, they can only say that, boxically. They're not allowed to say gyayu. And those are the bundle holders of spring. They call them the thunderpipe owners. And they only open them during the springtime. And again, just like the Motuki can't say Pixiksina or Omaxiksina, the same people cannot or not allowed to say Gyayu. Only Boxically, the bear, right? There's a dance in there called the Boxically. Now, we're just about finishing up our animals here. So any questions about the animals? Anything? I know I didn't have any pictures of an animal that's kind of, well, it's probably indigenous in that, but the bobcat, right? The bobcat is a natayu. I don't have a picture of that, but the bobcat is exactly that. It's got that short tail, right? It's called a bobcat. We call it natayu. Can you say it? I don't have a picture of it. I'll get you one.
Not tayo.
No,
Not you.
yeah, natayu. This is another animal that kind of had its comeback within the last 10 years. And they were very low in numbers in the Rocky Mountains at one time, but it made a huge comeback. And now it's almost in the sense that pet owners who live in those areas near the mountain regions, they watch after it because this animal, he likes to eat on Shih Tzus and Chihuahuas and all your pets. Omakatayu. So natayu is part of the word for bobcat. Natayu, right there. Omakatayu is what do we call it?
Big bobcat.
Yeah,
Oh my, big.
yeah, a big bobcat. But it's not a bobcat, you know, because it's got a long tail.
It's a
Omakatayu.
big cat.
Yeah.
Big cat.
The big bobcat. Yeah. They really made a huge comeback. And in fact, it came so close into our community in old agency. There were sightings of Gyayu, a sick Gyayu, and one of these. They had to get the fish and wildlife to come in and hunt it down. They didn't kill it. They just, they, what do you call it? Put it to sleep. And captured it, and they just relocated it back to where the Rockies. But the bear, they never caught the hold of the bear. I'm thinking some of our hunters and I probably heard, hey, there's a Gyayu in our neighborhood and that. And I'm pretty sure some of our hunters grabbed their tomahawks, some grabbed their 30-30s and went after it. Yeah. And probably killed it. The Gyayu. And we don't eat these animals, by the way. Napi was told by Makui, okay? Makui was talking to Napi. And Napi kind of tells the people, okay, what is it that we can eat in this region right here? You cannot eat animals that have paws. Okay? So, like the Baksikui, the Gyayu, is not part of the diet of Nitsitapi, nor is this animal. Omakatayu or the natayu. Anything with paws. And he advised them to eat only those animals that have hoofs, right? And of course, there's certain birds that you can eat, and kituki is one of them, right?
Yeah.
So you can eat the kituki, and of course, the other animals in that, they're birds that kind of eat leftovers that are left behind, right? So you don't eat those animals. And of course, the heat does. Or ceremonial, regalias that we use, and that's, but of course, they don't kill them just for the sake of, I need some feathers for my regalia and that, they're gifted to individuals and that. And if you do hunt them down and that, you don't shoot at them, you trap them. One way is you probably dig a hole and you put a dead gopher there and you hide somehow, and then when it comes down, you just grab it by its talons and then you chop it in the head. You knock it out, pull its feathers out, and away you go. But I haven't seen anybody actually hunt beetles and stuff. So any questions? Let's review them really quick before we move along. We are going to move on to our calendar moons. Really quick. Next week, we're going to be into December, okay? I do believe Monday of next week. Let me just check real quick. We're going to be December 4th, December the 11th, and on the 18th of December will be our last class. So after this, we'll just have 3 more classes until 2024. Then we'll commence again in 20. And I want to get lots and lots of stuff from now till then. Okay. Review some of the animals. Okay. Name the non-indigenous animals.
Indigenous.
Ixini.
Exini,
Abutskina.
Aputskina, cow,
Goose.
horse, cat,
Panakamita.
Bunagomita, elk, dog, horse,
Nitawaki.
Ikawanki, chicken.
Omakpiksi.
What's that?
Omakpiksi.
Say again.
Turkey. Omakpiksi.
Oh, I'm see the turkey. Yeah, of course. Is there another animal out there? One
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, you.
No, that's indigenous.
No.
Non-indigenous. Animals that were brought over by the settlers. One more. Imita.
Imita.
Imita. All the imitas, every dog that's here in Canada, southern Alberta, are non-indigenous. The imitas that we had are, of course, Makui. Oh, okay. So those are the ones that are non-indigenous. Okay, but who name the canines, our indigenous canines?
Apisi.
BC, which is what?
Magoy.
Huh? BC,
Coyote.
Coyote. Makui is the
Wolf.
Wolf.
wolf. One more.
And
You remember the gingerbread man? He rode on its back. Huh? Sinopa. Yeah,
oh yeah, Sinopa. Yeah.
Sinopa is the
Fox.
ox. Good. Okay, now name the antlers.
Ponoka.
Punaka, which is what?
Elk.
Elk. Good.
Sixty-two.
Awagasi. Yeah, a deer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sista.
No. Antlers.
Move.
62.
Oh, yeah, 62. Moose. One more.
Ini.
Ini. Oh yeah, of course.
Uh-huh.
That.
And
They're not very
What's-
common.
no.
So
Are you talking about
Kalwakas.
reindeer?
Sokiawaka.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
that's right.
the antlers, right?
Antelope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sokiawaka.
Pronghorns.
The what they call the pronghorns, the antelopes, yeah, so Kalwakas. So those are all indigenous antler animals in that. Okay. Now, moving towards the male, the male animals of these antlers, and what's that word called?
Stomach.
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 Good. Now, I wanted to share with you guys before we move along this particular word. Now, when we say stomach, we're talking about the bull, right? A
Yeah.
buffalo bull, a bull moose, right? A bull elk,
Yeah.
the male bull of the Sokiawakasi, their stomach, right? Stomach. So those are the bulls. Now, when they came with the Apwitskina, the settlers, when they came with their Apwitskina, well, of course, they brought their bulls too, right? Is it the same word? No. We don't use their bulls as our word to describe the bull's stomach. Okay? This, I kind of, when they were penning their animals, and of course, they'd fence their animals so they can graze in an area and that. But they would pen their bulls separately only until the fall time, like right now, right? Sometime during the fall, they let the bulls loose into the herd. But in the meantime, during the spring and summer, they're penned up separately. And all they do is call out or cry out from their pens all day long, right? While the rest of the herd are grazing over there, I'm penned up in my little pen. And you call those bulls Esayokumi. Did you see that? Esayokumi. A-I-S-A, S-I, and Y. Wait, hold on. My Y kind of looks a little bit. Esayokumi. Which is the description of calling out from their pens. Very descriptive, right? That's what they do. They're calling and crying out from their pens. That's the word we used for the bulls, whether it be the Charolais bulls, the red Angus, black Angus bulls. That was the word we used for the bulls that came into this area. The cattle bulls, right? So we're describing that's their that's their like their stomach, right? Their bulls. And that's all they do. It's not till the fall time that they're allowed to mingle with the rest of the, the rest of the cattle. And there's a word, a name out there. It's called chief calf, right?
Yeah.
Unistana, chief calf, right? When you think about the calf, what is it that you think immediately? What was your first thought about the calf? The cow calves,
Baby.
right? The outward skin on calves, right? But it's not. Calves in our word is onistachs. Onistachs. And some will say enistachs. Okay? So when you say chief calf, onistena, buffalo chief calf. But they cut out the buffalo, they just say chief calf, right? And automatically you think about, oh, that's a calf. The Hereford cow calf. No. Unistachs is the Blackfoot word we use for the eni and the eni calves. Okay? So I want to spell that here. Unistachs. Okay? Unistachs. You got to remember that.
Unistach.
Yeah, onistachs. And then some will say enistachs. Eni, right? The word eni is part of the word. And then stachs. Like that. Enistachs. Can you see that? I don't have a picture. I'm going to come with some pictures there we need to have. Enistachs. And then some will say like this. Onistachs. Onistachs. Two ways. But you can be right on both. But the most common one that they'll describe a buffalo calf is enistachs. Okay, so chief calf is onistachs ena. Onistachs ena. Chief calf. Yeah. And there's names up there, right? In the bloods.
Yep.
Chief calf. Yeah. I knew quite a bit of them. I grew up with some chief calves.
I got a buddy who's chief calf.
My buddy. If you're listening out there, okay. Merry Christmas. Yep. Onistachs. Okay, so that concludes our animals, antlers. Okay, moving on to some of our birds. Anybody name a few of our birds? What's a bald eagle? What is a bald eagle?
Ita.
It's a kidney, right? That's
Kidney.
What is a golden eagle?
Ute Kimyo.
The rust color head, right? Ute
Kimyo Tukan, yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about Ute Kimyo. Why? Why was it so important amongst the?
Because it didn't scavenge like the other eagles.
Yeah.
It just hunted for everything it ate.
Everything it does not scavenge. It's not a scavenger bird. It prefers to hunt. It is a true raptor in the sense that it will hunt for its food. It will not. If there's a roadkill, there's an old buffalo that's dead. Of course, the turkey vulture and other birds will eat it, but not the utekimutika. It'll hunt. Yep, it prefers to hunt. It loves to hunt for its food and that. So that's why the bloods in particular, they use black and whites. Everything that you see on their regalia, all black and white, right? And then when they gift university graduate, that seems to be something that it's kind of a symbolic now. If you graduate from the university colleges, right? If you accomplish, they gift these feathers and that. And more than likely, the person presenting the feather to the individual is going to be a golden eagle, right? It's going to have black tips and white, right? And that seems to be the preference in that. I know when my son graduated and my daughter graduated from high school, each of them got a feather. And I kind of protested. No, I didn't protest, but I noticed the people that were giving out the feathers, they were just plain beat up feathers, right? Which is, hey, it was a gift. But I was taught, it's the golden eagle that really holds high in our, as if you want to wear a regalia, if you want to wear a feather, the golden eagle. you know. Yeah, so pita, which is just the eagle, right? Okay, so let's move on to some of our other birds. Bimyat sikimi. Anybody?
Magpie.
Magpie.
Woo, woo. Good. Mate stew.
Crow.
Oh, good. Omakay stew.
Raven.
Raven.
Good. Nipomaki.
Dove.
Nipomaki. Chickadee.
Chickadee. That's right.
Yeah, chickadee. Nipomaki. And a dove, you wanted to say dove. What's a dove?
Kaku.
Cuckoo. Cuckoo, dove. Yeah. And then, of course, a non-indigenous animal that was brought over by, of course, the Chinese was the pheasant.
The pheasant. Yeah.
Non-indigenous, yeah. The pheasant, of course, we call it probably because of the flight pattern. You're like most kitukis in that they're very low when they fly, right? If you startle them all of a sudden when you're walking, they're not going to fly up in that. They kind of fly really low to the ground in that. And their flight patterns are like they'll flap, it'll glide, flap and glide. Whereas, you know, the same thing goes with a pheasant. If you ever see the flight pattern of it,
Yeah.
you know, it's very low to the ground, right? And if it's startled, it won't fly. It'll run. It'll run away from danger more than fly in that, right? So, you know, we call it bisatsiki toki, the fancy prairie chicken. That's what we call it. Bisatsiki toki. The first part is fancy, bisatsiki toki. Yeah, bisatsiki toki. I really don't have a picture of it in that, but I guess you can eat them, right? You can eat the pheasant. I've been to Chinatown in Calgary, and right on the menu, yeah, they got pheasant. Wonder how it tastes. Like chicken. Okay, so those are the animals anymore. And of course, we did the waterfowl. We just did those.
What about the Soxy Simsta, the meadowlark?
Oh, the meadowlark, yeah. What did they call it? What was that word? It's just such a long word.
Soximstan.
Soximstan. Yeah, Soximstan. Soximstan, of course, is the meadowlark. One of my favorite birds of the summer. It's got the most prettiest songs that you can ever have in the morning. You sit there in my patio sometimes, and I just have coffee in the mornings, and it's perches there, and it just sings the most beautiful songs in that. And at nighttime, just before the sun goes down, it starts singing. Oh yeah. Speaking of caller, what's a seepus do? Forgot about that.
Owl.
Owl, which means the night caller.
Night caller.
Owl. Yep. Another bird in that.
And
owl.
Another one, peacocky.
Yeah, seepus do, yeah. I think we're done. So all the animals.
Another one is peacocky. Turkey vulture.
Which is that?
Turkey vulture.
Oh yeah, peacocky.
Yeah.
You know why? You know, some of these animals and that we will never hear them because they're just so extinct. Peacocky, of course, is a turkey vulture, and it's a natural animal, indigenous to southern Alberta. In the days of the buffalo, very abundant, right? An old buffalo will probably just die of natural causes, and of course, you know, peacocky, you know, probably come in and eat, and you know, mate stews will come in, mamiat chikamis will come in, and omakay stews will come in, all the birds, right? When they're all done, and of course, the BC will come in, chew off a few bites and that, and if there's any what do you call makoye, probably, yeah. But the fox, I doubt. I don't think the fox is a scavenger. It's like the golden eagle, udekimutagan, and I think the fox, I don't think it eats leftovers. Eh? And we talked about the sinopa. It's a pelt that the Blackfoots will not use. Fox, particularly the bloods. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Ganaskina are rodents.
Yeah.
What's a ganaskina?
Mouse.
Hey, ganaskina, kya wapinok say. Oh, yeah, the old Gardaski. What's another rodent?
Misinski.
Misinski. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Badger.
Yeah.
Omkukata is a.
Gopher.
Yeah.
Gopher.
Artista is a.
Rabbit.
Rabbit.
Good. Artista. Mikaisi. Did we do that one? Mikaisi. Misami is long time squirrel.
Squirrel. Yeah. Mikaisi.
Yeah, that's a squirrel.
About chipmunk.
Appa.
Appa is a
White weasel.
white weasel. And utek is a
Rust-colored
Red
weasel.
rust-colored
weasel.
weasel. Yep. There's two kinds of there's two words for the appa, well, the weasel, right? Appa, it's white form right now. Springtime, utek, the rust color. Utek the is what we call the golden eagle, right? The rust head, same color as the utek. Yeah, so those are the rodents in that, right? And of course, now we have some issues in Calgary. They're bringing in an animal that's non-indigenous, that's just a rat. Umaksikanisky, right? The big mouse rat. Umaksikanisky, which is, it's non-indigenous. There's no rats here. Of course, when it started coming in from Norway, it's started coming in from countries that rats are probably common as your umakukatas, the gopher, and they're here, yeah, and along with other non-indigenous animals I see here, we have to come up with words for sheep, and we wear, clothing that's made out of 100% cotton. Imkini. I didn't include that in our vocabulary because I don't think it's very important to it, but we know that our clothing is all cotton. That's what we call a sheep. And another non-indigenous animal that's probably, I don't know what they use it for, is a llama. Another animal that I see quite a bit in farms is llamas, right? And of course, not along with their Punagomitas, when they started mining, particularly for coal, they started bringing in another Punagomita called Magandagomita, which is a short horse. We call them Shetlands, right? So we have to describe that animal according to its, size. Maketapi, a maketapi is a short person. Maketapi, right? So Magandagomita is a short horse. Yeah. So that's what they call the Shetlands that are here in that. And there's even smaller horses too in that, miniature, right? Small little horses that are just about a foot high. So we got to come up with a term, but they're punagomita, right? And they're pets. Well, they're imitas. If they're pets and they're domesticated, they live inside your house, you feed it, water it, right? You don't actually ride it, it's just a pet. It's a imita. Imite punagomita. Hey? That's my word for that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hey,
A pikai is another animal.
Oh yeah, apikai, which is what?
Yeah. Skunk.
Skunk, yeah, apikai, another indigenous animal, right? We have lots and lots of good stories about our animals, and that because of our storytellers being so far and so few, it's just a few of these animals that of their story background, which is a really good story because each story tells of the characteristic of how that animal became what he is, right? The bobcat, the nadayu, okay? Well, the nadayu, the bobcat was just like an ordinary goose. It was such a long tail. It had the most prettiest looking face and that big long whiskers. But he was real greedy, like in a sense that, like Napi himself, and he doesn't share. He goes into people's camps and steals and this stuff that is not supposed to be taken and that. He goes into camps and he steals, right? The bobcat, the nadayu. He said, "Oh, you know what? You're going to have to punish this animal and that." Because remember that story of the gopher, Napi and the gophers? Well, no, such one story that Napi was cooking his gophers. Well, he was cooking his gophers and that he had some leftovers, right? So Napi went to sleep, and of course the bobcat was just kind of lingering in the back, and he seen that Napi had fell asleep. So went over there, and he just munched on his leftovers. When Napi woke up, of course, you wake up, the first thing you want to do when you wake up is eat. So Napi was quite hungry. He woke up to see that, all my omakkukatas are gone. Somebody must have ate them. And they say that the omakukata are real greasy. If you eat those things, that even if you walk, you would leave a grease trail on your feet, right? So you follow the trail that was apparently, such a greasy animal, and that Natayu, the bobcat, started walking. And he didn't go very far because he ate so much omakukata. Napi caught up to it and punished him. He said, we're going to punish you for, stealing, and you're not going to steal anymore. When they see you, they're going to shoo you away in that. They're not going to like you in that. You're going to have to go hunt for yourself. No more stealing. So he grabbed the bobcat and he just smashed his face against a real big rock. Boom, smashed it in, right? And then, of course, he kind of took its tail and he chopped it off, make a little fuzz. And that's what, the bobcat, that's what he looks like today. And it's got that squished in face and little puffy tail to it. And that's what, he was punished for stealing Napi's gophers. So those are stories, right? And you see, and you hear them in Blackfoot. They're good. If you hear some really good storytellers, and it's like reading a novel. Like some of you, we all read, right? One of the things I just love to read is current events, right? Some of the stuff that are happening in history. The most recent thing that I've been reading upon, January the 22nd, 1963, if you guys anybody was still alive. I was 4 years old, when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
So, you start reading about stuff like that, right? And you start reading about, current events, what's happening with COVID. You start reading events about leadership and so forth. So we're good readers in a sense, but these stories that were told to us in a sense, as children, you're teaching the children the likeness of the animal, what it looks like, right? You're going to recognize it through the stories. This is the bobcat, right? He was punished, by Napi, he had his face pushed. There's a knot, just with the ears, got his ears stretched because he doesn't listen, right? So all those stories and that's how Blackfoot, in a sense, we tell these stories to provide lessons within those stories, values, right? So as community people, anytime you're going to live in a community, you have to have leadership, right? And in these communities, you have to have Nina, which is the word
Leader.
The chief or the leader, right?
Yeah.
But also too, within those stories and that we teach the value, to respect, these stories and that. So we can take those stories and use them in real life. Those same values, and at the same time, you're being aware of your environment, the animals that live amongst us, right? So that moves us to our calendar moons. Now, take a screenshot of this. These are our 12 calendar moons. Can you see that? Is it in focus?
She sent the document. We have a PDF.
Yeah. Okay, you guys got the document. Okay. So, of course, who developed the 12-month calendar? Who developed the 365 days in a year? Of course, if you all look at the History Channel and stuff, they say that Sumerians, the Sumerian culture, they're the ones that developed what we call the 365 days. Of course, the Romans themselves, and I had a big part of what you call the 7-day weeks, right? Monday to Sunday and that. So there was ancient cultures that developed our calendar lunar years in that January to now. Well, of course, we were talking about, the indigenous people here, how did we know from one month to another in that, right? Within our calendar years in that, we do not have Halloween. We do not have Thanksgiving. Of course, the big one now is going to be Christmas. So all those things we had to develop our own language so that now we can identify, okay, we live in a world that has a different counting system, that has a different measuring system and how they determine how many days there are in a year, how old we are as far as years and that, right? In Blackfoot, when they say, how old are you? They don't say how old you are. They say, how many winters are you? Right? So it's just strange. But how many winters have you seen? Right? Yeah, I mean, this is my actually 65th winter I'm seeing right now. 65 winters. And this spring, maybe my 65th spring, and then I'll be officially 65 in September. Yeah.
I'm gonna have your broccoli. Okay.
What's that? Somebody say something? Yeah, so like we say in our calendar moons and that, I'm going to share with you what we call those moons. So we're going to begin with January. Of course, that's when we change, like the new year will be 2024 and that. So January, we call that Om Gisum. Yeah, Om Gisum, which means the old moon. The old moon. Yeah. That's what that means. And there's other
Big
names. One in particular that I find really fascinating and interesting is that Gatu. It's a short word, Gatu, which means an old Blackfoot word, probably even before the contact. Gatu means scarce moon month, the scarce moon or the scarcity of food or the scarcity of game, the Gatu. So that was at the time probably the days of the buffalo, the days when they were still living in teepees and that. That was probably at one time, one of the winters in January, they'll say Gatu. But then, it's just probably just that one occasion or maybe a couple of winters in that, because we're talking about way back, right? So, that word's an old Blackfoot word, but they adopt this one more readily in that it's so the old moon. And how they determine that probably is that, this moon that's flying up there and the sun is the same Gisum that was in the days of the dinosaur, in the days of the ice age, right? That's the same sun, that's the same moon that's been here. So, so who knows when, the first man was on Earth and so forth. So that moon, we know that it's been around a long time. Omaksiki, the old moon. January. Okay, so that's January. We're going to go into February now. Okay, we're going to go from that. So moving on to February. We say Bite Gisum. Yeah, Bite Gisum is the what?
Eagle moon.
Yeah, the eagle moon. So the eagles don't really, they say that they don't really hibernate. They don't winter. There's some eagles that are still around here and that. Who knows where they go during the winter months, but they don't really hibernate like Saaz. So February is probably when they're more visual, like you start to see them more. Because when you think about the cold and that, it's usually December, January, and February does kind of get mild, right? And the weather starts to get a little bit milder and that. So February, we say Bite Gisum. And we say February, we think about February and that, in the Western culture, we think about Valentine's, right? When am I going to get my honey for Valentine's? It's that Western thought. When you think about the people of old and days of the buffalo, and you say Bite Gisum and that, you think about, okay, the days are getting a little bit longer, right? And then the daylight's much longer, and the sun seems to set more west than more southwest, right? Directly west of us. And then, of course, we'll probably see eagles a lot more often than that in our area. This area, right? We're not talking about just our reserve and that. We're talking about the area that was once the Blackfoot Confederacy into Medicine Hat, Regina, all the way up to Edmonton, you know, a huge area in that. So, you know, the calendar moons and that, and then when I have to converse with other groups, the Picani is Siksika and Namska Picani, to see if we all collectively agree and call these moons how we call them, the bloods. Because we're going to go into the days of the week and that. We do have our own days of the week from Sunday to Saturday. Okay. So, Omaksaki January, February, B-Day Soon. Now we go into March. Sa'e. Yeah, Sa'e, which means the duck moon. Yeah, the duck moon. So, what does that tell us? Well, you know, the duck's coming back, right? So what does that tell us right here in our own environment back in the day of the buffalo? Well, you know, the snow is starting to melt, right? There's more water, and there's going to be a lot of more fallout, you know, melting from the Rockies and that. And the rivers themselves are going to be very abundant. The backwaters, the lakes, and so forth. Lots and lots of water. And the ducks love the water, right? So, you know, Sa'eki soon, the eagle moon, which is March. Yeah, you're going to see a lot more ducks coming back. So what does that tell us? You know, the groups of people who are wintering, who are wintering in the Oldman rivers, the Belly rivers, the Bow rivers, and so forth. They can all, you know, they can now move up into the plains, right? Because the ducks are coming back. The rivers are going to be quite high and dangerous and that. So you're going to move away from those areas up on top now, right? And it's warmer. It's going to be a lot warmer than it is way back in the old moon. So you can start to really see how the indigenous people back in the day, how they lived in those environments by recognizing what moon it is, right? Now understand, we start counting the calendars at the first of the month, right? Friday will be December. In fact, with the full moon coming up tomorrow, they call it the bear moon or something. That's what we call our December moon, okay? So every full moon, it begins our first day of that calendar moon. Right now, we're still probably in the November moon, right? Okay, now let's move on to April. Matsi kapisa gisum.
Matsi
kapisa
gisum.
Matsi kapisa is the frog moon. Now, again, an indicator of the change of weather. The frogs are more abundant, right? With the frogs and that, there's no more ice. No more ice anywhere. All the ice that was in the rivers and the ponds, they're gone. And all you're going to hear is frogs. Abundance of frogs everywhere in that. Because, you know, they're spawning, you know, the minnows that were, and they're frogs, and you hear them. So the weather has changed quite a bit, right? In April. When you think about April, automatically you think about, oh, okay, Easter, Good Friday, and so forth in that, right? So the language of the people in that, we have to adapt to this new April that's been introduced, right? But the old people will say, Matsi kapisaki. So my grandfather used to tell me, "Sakte ke amo natusi." What is this moon again? And you think, it's the Matsi kapisaki. So April, oh, okay. You can almost see like a light, you know, and his head. Oh, okay, it's nicer weather out there, you know, like, oh, there's no more ice anywhere, and the rivers are probably deep and lots of water. Yeah. Okay, so which moves us on to May. Pististikatusi, kind of a hard word. Pististikatusi, which literally means the flower blossom. The flower blossom moon. So in April, of course, if you're out and about, you're hiking in the buttes, you're hiking in a non-industrial fields where there's no crop, just open prairie, well, you start to see flowers. Yellow crocuses, all kinds of purple flowers and so forth. And this is where you see the most, is when you know that, oh, the weather has definitely changed for the better, right? The grass is growing and there's much more abundance of birds. And of course, along with the flowers, what else are you going to see out there? We didn't do insects, but there's an insect that's
Namuix.
Namu, the pollinization, right? There's going to be an abundance of Namu, the bee, you know.
Namuix.
Yeah, and we need these flowers and that so, so that the Namu can do their job, make everything green, right? Pollinate all the trees and so forth. And that. So why do they call that Apasisticat? Do you see? Well, nature is at calling. It's doing its work. The Namu is doing its work by pollinizing everything that you see that's green, right? And of course, the Apasisticat are the flowers. There are flowers that our medicine men and women use to make tea. And they use these tea leaves and so forth, and some of the stuff that are out, the roots, right? And they make some, what you call herbal teas, right? We call it Xistigimpsta, which is an herbal tea and that roots and flowers and so forth. Make a tea, and I bet you it'll grow, you know, it'll probably heal some of your ailments. You got back ailments. My fingers hurt because I just made a brand new pair of moccasins, you know, stuff like that, joints pain, right? And there are people out there probably that relied on some of, you know, the recognize some of the flowers, right? Got to pick certain flowers and that for to make my tea, my herbal tea and that. And they only come very bright is in April, right? Oh, May, I should say. So June brings us to June. There's no moon. There's no moon at the suffix word of it. We say misamsuta. Misamsuta. Which means long rains. Long rains. Now, June is long rain. Misamsuta. Think about 1995. Think about 2013. Okay. In 1995, of course, we had the big flood of the century, right? You guys remember that in southern Alberta? Well, that happened in June, right? Misamsuta. And in way back in 1963, there was another big flood. And if you look at back in that date, in 1963, it probably happened in June too. Another big flood. But the biggest flood that there was 1995. Huge flood of southern Alberta. And you go almost 13 years to that day in 2013, they just about canceled the Calgary Stampede because it was just in water. And it had a big flood there. And it happened in June. So, you know, nature has a way of, you know, repeating itself. So that calendar, it's been constant. It's been in our language year in and year out. Like there's different kind of moons that they call, you know, the Farmer's Almanac will say, well, this is the cherry moon, or this is the bear moon, or this is the blue moon. But our moons are always consistent. Every year, as nature repeats itself and there's a pattern, always a steady pattern of what's happening in nature. And the animals indicate that, right? And then the nature itself tells us, right? Of course, you're going to have a Apasisticat, so you're going to have flowers in May. In June, yeah, rest assured, we're going to have lots and lots of rain. There's some suit them. So when that happens, probably I doubt any of the indigenous people are going to go to the riverside because there's going to be plenty of rain. Lots of, you know, lots of water levels, you know, rising and so forth. And that. As a kid, they're always, you know, I swam in the rivers as a child, the Belly River. But they always tell us never swim during the thaw months of June because you know the water levels are quite high and are rapid and are deep. And it was always constant. And I went to go see for myself. I wanted to swim in June. And you know, look at the rivers. Holy smokes! You know, there was just a huge amount of volume in the river. Fast flowing. And we always had an area where we swam in that. But July, we go back there, blue, green, and that. We're in the river and we're swimming and we're drinking off the rivers. Did you believe that? Do you believe me? I drank from the river, the Old Man River, straight from the river. I did. I never got sick. That was back in the day, in the 60s and early 70s. Our swimming hole would just go a little bit further where there's kind of white rapids. So you take a clean container, of course, and where the rapids are now, you just take the tops of it and to fill your glass, whatever. You drink that water. Never got beaver fever or nothing. And it's, you just like the waters were so clean back then, within the last 50 years. And I don't dare put my foot in there. Might disappear. Okay, so it brings us to July. Now, okonoki is what we call the blueberries. Okonoki. Okay, that's the first part of the word. There's another word that we use in that. It's kind of short and say meanie. The blueberries. Okay, meanie. Those are the Saskatoons. When we say okonoki, okay, okonoki, that's the Saskatoon blueberries. Okonokis utsite cheap. When they're ripen.
Okonokis
July. Yeah, utsite cheap. Okonokis, that when the blueberries utsite cheap. When they're ripe. So think back in the days of the buffalo. Why was that important to know when blueberries ripen in July? Well, in about 3 or 4 months' time in that, you're coming up with the winters. In July, there's very short summers, right? So a big part of the tasks in the days and were to pick berries. July would be the perfect time to, we've had the long rains, right? Now we're moving into okonokis, they've had lots and lots of rain, precipitation, lots of sunlight now, and they're just ready to pick. And I heard, and I seen that back in my day, is that the okonokis would just hang from just like grapes, right? They would just literally hang like that. Oh, just like you start eating right from the tree, your mouth would be just blue and dry, right? And then you go to the river and get some water, and yeah, it's just a good snack rather than going to 7-Eleven or something in that, right? That was just right there, nature. Okonoki sochiteichi. Now they mix the blueberries with ini, the meat, and a little bit of the fat, the tallow from the ini, and you mix them together. You grind the meat, right? You got to grind the meat. You got to dry the meat first, eat the ini. And then what you do is that you would grind it. And women found rocks. They're kind of like almost built. And they look for these kind of rocks. They're kind of oblong in shape and that. And that's what they use in that, right? And they crush that dry meat. And you put a little bit of that, the fat of the animal and the berries, the dried berries. And you mix that together to make pemmican. Now it's the food of the winter. Lasts us through the winter in that, right? With pemmican, you don't have to refrigerate it. You don't have to, it just sits in your pouch. And any time of the year and that's what you eat, pemmican. When they were first started farming southern Alberta, everybody knows where Tabor is, right? In that vicinity. Lots and lots of potatoes and beets and so forth and that. While they were cultivating that area, a farmer had come across a pouch. It was a pouch of something in that. And he picked it up. It was an old indigenous pouch of some sort, right? He was curious as to the contents of the pouch in that. So he must have, cleaned it off and so forth and that. When he opened the pouch, inside there was pemmican, which was preserved. At that time that you could actually eat that pemmican. Brought it to the museum. The museum people probably came down, the Royal Alberta Museum, and they looked at it. It was, it was from southern Alberta. And the pouch in itself and that was probably over 200 years old. So that, the contents of the pemmican, it stood the test of time. If you ate it, you weren't going to get food poisoning. You were going to probably grow some muscle, all that protein, right? Yeah, so that was very important to know, right? The calendar moons. In July, you think about, I got to go buy myself shorts. I got to go buy some flip-flops and go swimming. I'm gonna get some suntan. I'm gonna barbecue. But Okonoki so today CP was work. It was a lot of work in those days and that collectively in that, right? It was a very complex society. So, in order for us, because the coming months and that, it indicates we need to be prepared for that, because we're going to be needing that blueberries and that. So we need to know what moon this is, right? Back in the day. Okonoki so today CP. Okay, we're going to move on to July. August.
August.
Now, this is another one too, the Bucky. Buckies are called the choke cherries, right? Bucky beasts uchiteichi. When choke cherries ripen, Bucky beasts. The same suffix as okonokists uchiteichi. Bucky beasts, cherries, choke cherries, uchiteichi, which means when the choke cherries ripen. Now, of course, yeah, we pick choke cherries as well too, and because they make what they call it, they crush it to make pies or those choke cherry cakes, and they're quite tasty in that too. And that, but it's a little bit harsh because you have to digest the stone, right? So you have to really, really pound those cherries down to make cakes, and they put them out in the sun, the cakes themselves, and that. Then they dry them out in the sun and that, and you can open up your refrigerator and you got a choke cherry cake. Yeah, so that's another food that they ate in that, right? So that brings us to September. Now, September is a month we call the Awagasi Gitsum. September, yeah, Awagasi Gitsum, which means September is the deer moon.
Deer
What does that mean? Okay, when you think about September, when you think about the ini, the abundance of it is probably they've moved because the inis too. They move according to the weather and that, so they're probably moving more south, which leaves us with lots and lots of awakasi, right? So the awakasi gitsum is probably more in our hunting, right? Let's go hunting because right now, as we speak, of that they're having their hunting season in the States and here too, right? You gotta go get your license to hunt the 60 Sioux and a Punuka. Awakasi gitsum. Now, October. This is a new word. We say Mukatusi, October, which literally means the fall moon. There are 4 seasons, okay? Muku is fall. Istui, winter. Mutu, spring. And Nipoi, summer. Okay? So Mukatusi is literally the fall moon. Another word that they use for fall, for October, ni beasts, when the leaves dry and fall. And that's an old Blackfoot word too. Ni beasts, it's when the leaves, ni be, is when they fall to the ground. But this is a more common one they use for October. The fall moon, Mukatusi, which is that, right? Fall, autumn, which everything does, everything does dry up with that. So we're still within the realm of what's happening in nature, right? Leaves are falling, they're drying up, Mukatusi, shorter days, longer nights, and so forth.
And there's
which brings us to November. November, Itotsui. When cold weather arrives, Itotsui. Yeah, Itotsui.
Stoy.
Yeah. So, it's very indicative, very descriptive, and very accurate. Each moon indicates accuracy in our awareness of what's happening within our environment. And we act accordingly. We need to act, right? Way back in Okonoki, if we didn't recognize that that's when there was abundance of berries, and we picked them late, they're going to be all dried up from that. And they're going to be unprepared for the coming months, which is cold, right? If you don't have the subsistence, and if you didn't work hard enough on that, it's going to be a katu in January, a scarce month, right? So December, the official December moon begins tomorrow night. No, tonight. Yeah, tonight is the full moon. So today is our first calendar moon for December, which is called Misamiku Atuse. Misamiku Atuse, which means long nights. Misamiku Atuse. Is that true? Do we have long nights in September? Yes, yes. But that's very indicative of, the people of, the days of the buffalo, that this moon, you have to be prepared for this moon because, January is going to be the coldest month, and that if you're not prepared by Misamiku and that, because, winters are harsh, very harsh back in the days. So that brings us to the end of our lesson. Any questions? I got about 5 minutes. I got to go to Walmart. No. This calendar moon
How do you
tells
say-
me I got to go to Walmart.
I was gonna
Yeah. Got a question over here.
about getting land and buying a house, building a house on the reservation.
Oh, that's a question for Sue.
You know, Stephen Crime had seen it.
Yeah, I know Stephen Crichton.
What about Junior?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my great uncle.
Oh, okay. You're from the Laverne area.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sweet up there.
Yeah.
That's what you call it.
Gladstone Hall, the house
Yeah.
is right beside it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Sweetabix.
Question how to be related to what I've been taught
Okay, just wondering because I want to have my own house.
about the months.
Oh, you want the copy of the peach card?
I got it.
No,
Yeah.
I mean you bring the question that's not related to.
Yeah, it's not really related to her. That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it has to be something related to. what
Yeah. We want to ask questions related to
what I've
our,
been taught.
yeah, what we're taught. I'd love to answer that question if I knew it.
Yeah.
Sue, do you know anything about housing on the rest? I don't. Not really. I think if you really want to
What
answer,
about getting land.
you'll have to go to probably the lands department and the housing department. There's two different,
Okay.
yeah. So that's my.
Anyway,
Yeah. Going back to our Blackfoot lesson, any questions?
So the
Yeah,
four,
Who goes first? Heather.
please go
so
ahead
the
first.
Okay.
four main seasons.
That was what I was gonna ask too.
Yeah.
Muku?
Is March.
March what?
March.
Saekisu.
So that's the main one of the four seasons.
March.
No.
Sae is our duck. The four
Duck.
seasons that we have, of course, is Mugu, which
Fall,
is
yeah.
right now fall.
Mu- mu-
Stui, which is winter, right? Mu du is spring. Ni boy, summer. Yeah, so right now, mu gu is our fall, which is we're still in the moon of the, well, today we're officially in the calendar moon of long night moon. And it's going to be like that until, of course, when you get into the January moon. Then we'll get into the Omaksiki, so the old moon. Then we start recognizing, hey, we're past the long nights. Or, the days are a bit longer, but it's cold. It is the coldest moon of all the 12 moons. January. Supposed to be
So-
anyway.
So Muku is fall. Stoye is winter.
Winter.
Stoye is
Mu-
winter. Nutu?
No, moo. Like moo do.
Move.
With an M. Moo do.
Moo-
M-O-T-O. Moo. Yeah, moo do.
Spring.
That's spring. Knee boy. Knee boy, like knee, your knee.
Yeah.
Boy is summer. Yeah, we're going to be doing that. That's part of our vocabulary, by the way. We're going into, of course, nature. But I'm going to
Okay.
share with you next week our 7-day week. You say Monday or no? You say Sunday, we say Natui Kichiku. You say Monday, we say Natui Isikatui Kichiku. Tuesday, Omachtistu Kisikatui Kichiku. Wednesday, Itawano Tsuki. Thursday, Ikatasino. Friday, Mami Kichiku.
Fish day.
Saturday is called Tutatu Kichiku. What that means, Sunday, holy day. Monday in Blackfoot, in our language, is Sikatuikitsuko, means rest day after the holy day. That's Monday. Tuesday, 2-day rest after the holy day. So these 3 days are devoted to the churches, right? We named these 3 days according to what was happening with the church. A lot of influence in our daily our lives through the churches. Wednesday, we call that half day. You don't want no two. Half day meant that all businesses and merchants on Wednesday, it was a time when they closed right at noon. And Lethbridge was one of those towns. Thursday, it means used to be ration day, the old ration day. So every Thursdays, all the reserve people would go to the old agency area, get their rations and go home. But when they quit that day, they would just call it old ration day. So again, something that was very descriptive that was happening in our communities, right? We visualized them, we named them. Friday, fish day. You know, that was part of our diets during residential school, and I remember that. Every Friday we had fish day. And then Saturday, the holy day nears, which is the next day. Yeah. So out of the 7-day weeks, 4 of those words are very committed to what was happening with the churches, right? Very influential in our days of the week. Wednesday was something that was happening within our communities. There was a half day. Thursdays, of course, our community was given rations, but they cut out that program. There was no more ration. So Thursday is old ration day. Okay. Friday is fish day, mamikstiku. When everybody eats fish, there must be a cat. I don't know if there's, yeah, just churches, right? So, you know, both the Catholics and the Anglicans at that time. If you want to eat, that's what they serve you, fish. So we call that fish day. And then Saturday is when holy day nears. Yeah, so 4 days out of those days of the week are all devoted to the church. Yeah. So it is very descriptive of how we looked at the world that is now westernized, right? Our world and that, right? But our calendar moons are still there. They're still called as such. You know, some of the calendar events don't happen as consistent, like the duck moon, right? It might as well be duck moon right now because they're still here.
Yep.
You know, so you know we need to study. You know, we need to know what nature's telling us, and you know, so forth and that. And to the people of old, they understood very well of their environment, what was happening, the rivers, the trees, the flowers, the berries, right? We need to work within our environment so we can live many winters, right? Happy?
Sugapi.
All right. All right, we're gonna cut off right there. I'm gonna go shopping. And next week, we're gonna do some more nature, but also I want to share with you some Christmas carols. Silent night next week. So everybody's gonna sing.
Okay.
So bring your voices. All right. Okay. Say bye
Okay.
to Sue. Say bye to our studio audience. Say Heather, Sue, Gabriel, Heather, Zach, Larissa. Geramatsinokwa. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. Woo. I love